Did you know that dreams are a secret communication method between true twin flames? Of course, when we dream at night, we can have our brain organize all kinds of beautiful landscapes for us, dream landscapes that are sort of an amalgam of things that we have seen in our wake life, and to process it further and whatnot. But sometimes there can also come in a stream of much more profound energy, guidance, that moves through your brain's ability to form pictures, to process things in dream language, right? Symbolic things that you inner see. And then it is actually having a meaning that is connected to the bigger whole. Maybe that's always the case, but it depends on how we perceive ourselves. We're always the true twin flame of our twin flame, sacred, at the core already part of the union, whether we are awake or asleep. And especially when we accept to be on the journey to make all this come true in the physical daily life sense, we can get sometimes images, messages, processes to see in our dream world that we are not really able to fully grasp or receive in our wake world, in our awake world. Because in our awake world, we're so occupied with what we need to do and what we need to eat and what we need to wear and who we need to meet, making money, our family, our children, our friends, all kinds of functions all day long. And we watch TV, we have some fun things going on. And when is this deeper message coming for you? When are you going to receive it? Well, maybe better when you sleep and you're like being very busy with all these daily life kinds of organizations has been shut off for a moment. And, other streams of information and alignment can come in to show you something. And especially when you have, what I said, surrendered yourself to the twin flame journey and committed yourself to it as well, and invest in yourself to really go the whole journey and go to harmonious twin flame union, the consciousness state that it is really all about, whether you know it or not, or have heard of it or not, then you could expect dreams to be about that process with a deeper truth, a deeper message that really is about how to move deeper in union, how your twin flame is doing in relationship with you. I have experienced that very much. After harmonious union, this became even more so and more clear. Because when I look back, well, it is sometimes hard to remember how exactly it was before harmonious twin flame union, because there was a lot of falsehood about it, and all of that is being processed by me and letting go of. But I do think that I had all these heavy dreams that felt very powerful and very meaningful in the direction of going to my union, which I wanted, or I felt called to. And these were different kinds of dreams in different decades in my earlier life. I do remember something that I had dreamt in my later teen years, I think. It must have been about, I always had, I had multiple themes going on through my dreams in these times, but one I remember was, I was in this parking garage, car park garage, and it was very hollow and like echoing, my voice was echoing through the whole thing, and it was very empty and like needy and in need of love, right? another thing that I've always remembered, is that I dreamt of a pop star singing this song to me, but it actually was from my twin flame to me. And the strange thing was that in my awake life, I wouldn't even say that I had ever heard of this pop star almost. Well, I had, but hardly, or something, you know? I was like, is that a song of this pop star? And what is this pop star doing in my dream? You know, it's like, what the heck? So I think it was Kylie Minogue from Australia. Well, I live in Europe. I think she was in the 90s a star, somewhat at least. But I don't remember associating with her at all. But anyway, so and probably this is not even a real song of her. Or is it? Well, that would be weird. I don't know. But here it comes. So my dream was that the song lyric was "Confide in me." And I hardly knew what the word confide in English meant, because it was in English, but I'm Dutch, you know. Uh, in that time I lived in the Dutch language, but I really dreamt it in English. Confide in me. I can hear it in my head now, so I think it is a song. Confide in me. So I guess it is a song then. All right. It's a song. I must have heard it, but it was in my dream, and it got this heavy load around it, that it was like important and valuable. So it was like as if my twin flame told that to me, right? Sometimes one can have that. I had that too, that you can walk into the supermarket and then this song on the radio is playing and you're like, oh, that's a lyric that is actually about my twin flame, and I hear it now, and that's a beautiful love sign, right? Out of the feeling of synchronicity or whatnot. But then you're awake. So now I heard the radio in the supermarket in my dreams. Well, it was not a supermarket, but it was also not a radio. It was just there or something. So that was the message: confide in me. So trust me that I will still be there with you, for you. And I even had not a correct idea who my true twin flame was at that time in my life, looking back, right? But I still had this song, and it still feels as if it was from the true twin flame. Confide in me. And this just was so deeply ingrained in my heart, and it kept on being with me, you know, for decades. I can still remember this. And I think like a decade ago or something, I also had dreams that would feel pretty heavy, and like meaningful and whatnot. But I think it was more, that was all really a period in my life in which I was processing deep emotions that were in my soul already, and or that had been created and brought into life in my extensive childhood trauma, which was a lot of complex PTSD, actually, from early trauma, honestly. In my case, it can differ, but we all have all kinds of impressions from our early childhood that are ingrained in our unconscious, that we sort of consciously can't remember, but they still actually play a huge role in how we perceive the world and whatnot. And that can have a sort of a same feeling, but it can be maybe like less problematic than if you really have CPTSD or early childhood trauma or or however you want to call it. So I think these dreams were more about, like processing these deep emotions. And another thing that was standing out when I look back right now is that in that time, the person that was playing the role of this is the twin flame was often not the true twin flame. It was the person that I at that time thought might be it, or that I was focused on. And that is, well, you could call it a false twin flame dream, but I think that what looking back, it comes down to a lot of the time, or it came down to a lot of the time, was that the true twin flame showed itself to me in the guise of a false twin flame, or anyone, which is the same. The false twin flame is anyone, actually, honestly. But they sort of fall into that place in your journey, right, where you believe them to be the twin flame. So the true twin flame had a sort of a message, but he would show himself to me in the guise, in the mask of this other person, because that's what I at that time believed him to be. So that's why these people show up in your dream. I have seen this more. This is a general phenomenon. Maybe interesting for you to know. So these heavy dreams were about processing things in relationship with these guys that I thought was the true twin flame, but they weren't. And it was actually about processing things that I needed to process anyway to go to my actual true twin flame. So it was also that, and also that he just actually was in my life in the form of these guys, and also in my dream in the form of these guys. Now, since I really gotten into the direction firmly of my true union and my harmonious union consciousness state that it is all about, I began to dream about the true twin flame also in form. Also his form was in my dream. And all of it started to come together, right? Not only that you feel in your heart like this must be it, but it's also going to be the right visual that really actually corresponds to the actual true twin flame, and it starts to really come together. And that is also the time in which I started to experience, and after that fully realize, for some years that had been going on, that the twin flame was truly communicating with me in my dreams. Like truly. There was not like, oh yeah, maybe sorta kinda. Oh yeah, maybe sorta in another form. Oh yeah, maybe sort of what could be, but it's not. Or what I actually need to process in my deeper emotions because of trauma. No, I really started to experience these were actual messages in my dream. I could read them correctly, and that was the message. I accepted it, and it always came true. There you go. Twin flame can communicate with you in dreams. Also, when you think like, oh, but they don't text me anymore on my phone, and I don't like that, and it's a problem, and they don't want to be called by me anymore, and they blocked me on Facebook, and all this thing. But actually, you may be dreaming the message. And that can be a form of direct communication. So in my case, for instance, well, I would dream that he had this message for me that he would come back to me in 6 months to communicate further because he couldn't right now, and that he would come back with love to me. And then 6 months later, he came back to me communicating with me. There you go. A very clear example, isn't it? But sometimes also with more of a symbolic nature, like I also had received dreams in which it was clear that he indicated to me that we could communicate in a certain way at a certain place. I'm not going to say where. But that would be it for now, because he could not do anything else at this moment. And that was communicated to me with more of a symbol. And the symbol would, for instance, be that we would be able to meet in this some sort of a, how can I say, some sort of a small room under the stairs in his house, something like that. And that was for now a place where we could now and then meet, because for the rest, things needed to be sorted out better first. And then this was a place where there was bright light and we could meet now and then, but it was sort of a confined space where only the two of us would know about, and we could meet there for now. And that was actually the symbol for where we could communicate for the time being. And sometimes these kinds of symbols took a little longer for me to fully fall into place for me. Like, oh, now I fully can read this language, what that meant. But it nevertheless was a clear message, and it was truly true. And that's actually what was going on. And that was actually like the meta communication that was not being able to be said, but then it was said in this symbolic way. And it was true. And it was the explanation that you sort of maybe needed. Very interesting. And there were a whole couple of these kinds of examples. Absolutely. So the twin flame always communicates with you. I think that's the true underlying twin flame secret that we're speaking here about. And if you can't have a communication with them in the awake state, then you might have it in the asleep state. These are all states that we're all still the same soul in, still the same part of our true union in. Doesn't matter in what state we are exactly, whether in a meditational state or an awake state or in a sleep state. Doesn't matter. We're still always this one soul that on the deeper level, where you're one, on the spirit level, where you're connected with Source, are together with your complement. You're always that. There's always a way to communicate together. Because there can't not be. And dreams can be truly part of that. So I hope this helped. Friends, ask your strategy session now. We will meet up very soon in an online meeting of 20 minutes in which I will pick 3 oracle cards for you, guided by Divine Mother, that will tell you what is next for you on your twin flame unfoldment journey. And then we'll together speak about how you could reach that, what would be helpful for you while doing these next steps, and I will ask you what you want to choose from what we discussed. Maybe you want to choose to go for the 2 hours plus many more services on top of that VIP session, because they are half price until September 1st for everyone, whether you already work with me or you're new to it. In this VIP session, I can bring you very far, and I will condense everything that I can mean for you in this 2-hour period. And we will just go deep, do inner work, exchange information too, talk about how you can continue all of this. I will give you initiations if I have to. I give you all kinds of material afterwards that might help you to keep on doing the work. And you will be propelled forward so incredibly much because of your VIP session. Yes, it will be about your twin flame journey, 100%, and going to harmonious union, the consciousness state. But we could also touch on mission and mission business, your health and food, and maybe even other topics that you think is not really related, but it actually is. Because union is a whole life full of divine connection. So, if you want that, come to the strategy session. Again, in the strategy session, we'll find out what Divine Mother says that is next for you on the Twin Flame journey. And I'd love to find that out for you. You go to the link below of the strategy session and you ask yours now. We'll schedule it in and find out what will be Divine Mother's indication of what's next for you. I'm very curious and I would like to meet you there real soon. Love from Petra.